Hi guys, well here we are. This is Cal Masker coming to you from Moncton, New Brunswick, and I'm just here to help lead and guide through this 12-step program called Overcomers. Overcomers is a daily choice, and so I want to welcome you. If you're looking for a 12-step program that's got spirituality to it, it's going to connect you to good people, it's going to help you to connect you to some real valuable resources, and hopefully some new friendships that are moving forward in life. I want to welcome you to this program, and I want to welcome you if you have a friend or family member that could use help, either overcoming an addiction to drugs or alcohol or gambling or a sexual addiction or just hurts and hang-ups, just whatever in people's life is out of control. That's what these 12 steps are meant to do, and it gives you the tools to be able to overcome, to begin to see yourself as an overcomer. And so I'm going to work through step 1 right through to the step 12. It's a 90-day program. I'm going to encourage you to get a pad of paper and a pen, because there's going to be some work for you to do. If you're going to get the most out of this, you need to be able to start to express your heart. You'll do more and more as you go along. At first, it may be a little different for you to do that, but I want to encourage you, do the homework, because it's going to help you to move forward. I've seen literally hundreds of people benefit from this. I've been involved with addictions for over 30 years, involved in mission work here out of Moncton, and my desire is to help people move forward and not see people die in a life of controlled substance and lives spiraling out of control. I want to see your family restored. I want to see you have a peace of mind. And so I'm going to be coming to you in the most simple format I can, just to be as relatable as possible. And I'm going to start tonight. This is the beginning, step 1, day 1. And we're going to work through 6 days a week, Monday to Saturday. I'm going to post it at 6 o'clock. So whatever time you get home from work, it could be 8 o'clock at night, or maybe your downtime and struggle is at 11:30 at night. And rather than go out and do something foolish, you got something you can plug into. And I'm telling you, you give yourself to a step a day, and you're going to start feeling strength within a couple of weeks. I encourage you to stick it out. So if you have any questions, you'll be able to get to me on Facebook, message me. I'll answer any questions going forward. Hopefully there'll be an accountability partner that you'll establish as you go, someone that you could look up to, someone that you could ask you how you're doing. Sometimes we just need someone to ask us how we're doing on a regular basis. And then eventually, once things begin to open up, we get more people involved. I'm hoping to see groups form in houses, in homes, in churches, wherever, and that we can have an accountability group at least once a week. Because just online is not enough. We're relatable. We need to have relationships with each other to help one another and be up close. So this is how it's going to begin. And so tonight I'm going to start with step 1, and I'm going to go through this next 90 days with you. So plug in, hang in there, and let's get started. So I'm just going to open up in a word of prayer, if that's okay, and ask God for help. That's the source of our hope in 12 steps. So Heavenly Father, I just welcome your presence right now. I pray you touch people that are looking in. Let them know you love them, you're here to help them, and you've given us some practical tools that are going to help us to become overcomers. And so may you help us to begin even now to begin to see ourselves as an overcomer. We welcome your presence and your guidance in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. So just a little bit of my own story before I get started. I grew up in a household where there was a lot of drugs and alcohol. My father went to prison when I was 2 and spent 3 years in prison. My mother left shortly after when I was about 4. And so I grew up in a very dysfunctional family background, ended up meeting my father in prison years later, got involved in the drug culture, smuggling drugs into the prison from my dad. I learned criminal activity partly through him and some on my own. And for my 4th time in and out of jail since the time I was 16, I was 21 with a 7-year sentence. And I was from Scarborough, Ontario, Toronto area, out in Alberta. And I ended up committing some, very serious crimes, sent all the way down here to Dorchester Penitentiary in 1981, doing a 7-year sentence. And I just felt like it was the end of my life. I'd ruined it. There was no way out of this. And I was very suicidal. I just wanted to end my life. And about a year and a half into my sentence, I ended up in a lockup unit called segregation for 4 months. And it was while I was there that I just began to be so desperate and just thinking of ending my life. But I thought, if there's something more to life, I need to know. I need to understand. And I heard a message by Billy Graham. How that message got into the prison cell that night on TV, only God knows. But I had heard of him as a young boy, and I rejected religion. I didn't want to be part of religion or the hypocrisy that I'd seen in that system. But I had met a couple of people through my life that I did see a peace and a joy in. So I knew there was something about it that I just couldn't understand or get my hands on. But when I listened to this Billy Graham this night, it was just like a little voice in my head said, just listen. What have you got to lose now? Look where your life is. Look where you're at. You're 21. Your life's messed up. I was actually 22 by that time. And I was only a year and a half into a 7-year sentence and no visits, no family. I felt very isolated. and in a deep, deep depression. And some of you know what depression is, and some of you would know when I say deep depression. Well, I was in a very deep depression, and I heard this gospel message that we could start over again. You know, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever would believe on him would not perish, but have everlasting life. And that message was so simple, it got through to me. And 3 or 4 days, I couldn't sleep properly. I was still thinking, still very suicidal. And I remembered this message, and I knelt down by my bed one night, and I said, God, this is what I said. I just said, God, if you're really out there, like this man said, then please come into my life and show me. When I drink, I feel it. When I do drugs, I can feel it. It's real to me. If you can be that real to me, I'll follow you the rest of my life, but I just got to know you're real for me. And I didn't feel anything that night, nothing. And but when I woke up the next day, all I could say is something transpired in my life overnight. I woke up with this peaceful feeling that I'd never had before. And I even remember dreaming. I thinking I was dreaming, actually, and I was pinching myself to see if I was awake. And I remember my thoughts. This is 40 years ago, this coming fall. And I said, wow, if I'm sleeping, I really don't want to wake up, because this is the best I've ever felt. And then I remembered my prayer, and I believed that God had answered my prayer. And I got up, and the Gideons had put Bibles in the prison cell, so I got reading the Bible about the life of Jesus, how he came for criminals, and he came for alcoholics, and people that were messed up like me. And I began to identify, and I began to grow a little bit, and got to know some other people that were moving forward, and started going to the chapel and finding there was a better way of life, you know. And so day by day, I just began to grow. I began to take in some positive reinforcements. And that's what really changed my life, was taking in positive reinforcements. And you're going to find through this program, every day there's going to be a scripture. And I want you just to ponder it, because you're going to see how relatable these scriptures are to daily life. It's not going to be all the whole Bible, just a scripture each day that's going to give us something to ponder. And it's going to touch the issues of our life that we're dealing with that very day. You're going to be amazed at how it's going to open up new ways of thinking and new ways of relating and bring hope into your life. And so that's my hope. You know, as I sat 3 more years in the prison and saw volunteers coming into the chapel and just loving us and caring for us and listening to us and saying that we're going to be there for us when we got out, a new family, I began to see the power of a small group of people coming in and just caring. And I said back then, I said, God, why couldn't we have places like this on the street to reach young people before they made decisions to end up in places like Dorchester and in addiction and lives spiraling out of control and families being destroyed? That was my dream as a young man. And so, and when I got out, I got involved in, painting business for a little while, and then I got involved in mission work, just reaching out at street level, helping people, pointing them to a better way of life, reaching out to people that have been in the criminal trade and going back into prisons. I was going into prisons until COVID hit regularly. My daughter wrote my story, my personal story called Like Father, Like Son, that goes into 120 institutions, and we encourage inmates coming out that there's hope. And I want to encourage you, there's hope for you, there's hope for your family. Even if you don't feel there's anything can come out of your life, I'm telling you, good things can begin to take place if you just get some positive reinforcement in you and have some help. So that's a bit of my story. Now I'm going to launch right into day 1, step 1. And maybe at some point, if you ever feel ready to share your own story, we're going to have different testimonies of people, probably on a weekly basis, just people that began to get their life turned around, what steps they took. And I hope you identify with some of these stories and some of these people. So the deceptive cycle, day 1, this book is called Overcomers, and it was meant to be done in conjunction with a group. So we're going to do this online because a lot of people are home and stuck at home these days. But eventually you're going to be able to get back out, and hopefully we can connect you to a group and some people moving forward in the same ways. So I am going to start at step 1. I admit that I am powerless over, and only you can identify with what that is. I'm asking you to take an honest look at your life. Don't be afraid to open up a little bit and say, you know what causes me to feel powerless? So the deceptive cycle, day 1, I admit that I'm powerless over, and only you can identify that, whether it's drugs, drinking, a sexual addiction, gambling, binging, whatever it is. Just you identify with what it is. Maybe it's anger. Maybe it's bad relationships. You make bad choices, I admit that I'm powerless over, and it is controlling my life. Real help starts with first admitting that there's an issue. There's a problem that you haven't been able to conquer on your own. And he says, the fact that you are reading this book or taking this course with me is an acknowledgement that part of your life has become unmanageable or out of control. It is not an easy matter to admit that you need help. And the road to this acknowledgement may have been long and filled with suffering. You may have lost jobs, compromised your health, destroyed your relationships with family and friends, and ruined your finances. You probably heard yourself making statements such as, I can handle this by myself. I can do it my way. I don't really have a problem. It's not my fault. or I need to change, but. We have all these excuses and we just never get there because we don't just own up to it. It's likely that you have already spent month after month, year after year, enslaved by the frustrating cycles of disappointment, crisis, confusion, and failure. The Bible clearly acknowledges this dilemma. I know I am rotten through and through, so far as my old nature is concerned, by ourself and our sickness, our life is rotten. Well, most of us could admit to that. No matter which way I turn, I can't make myself do right. You ever feel like that? You just can't do the right thing. You want to do the right thing, and you just find yourself always doing the wrong thing. I want to, but I can't. I want to do the right thing, but I can't. When I want to do good, I don't. And when I try not to do wrong, I do it anyway. You ever feel like that? I remember reading that for the first time, and I thought, wow, that's talking about my life. I'm trying to do the right thing. I always try to get it turned around. When I get out of jail this time, I'm not going to go back here. I'm going to turn over a new leaf. And within weeks, I'm back into the old mindset, back into the old friendships, and in trouble again. For me, I was in and out 5 times before I finally, recognized I needed help. And have you made some of the following statements and then found yourself doing exactly the opposite? And this is where you're going to need a pen and a paper until you can get a book. This is going to be backwards for you for now, but it's called The Daily Choice Overcomer Manual. And I'm encouraging you, it's $20 for the manual. Get in touch with me if you want it. We can have it mailed out to you. We'll find a way to get it to you. You need to get a manual if you want to do this well. But in the meantime, until you figure out how to do that, you can get a piece of paper and a pen. And the first statement that you find yourself doing, I will cut down on my drinking, drug use, gambling, smoking, right? That's the first thing we say. I will cut down on it. What are you just thinking you can cut down on your own? I will stop tomorrow, next week, next month, and I won't use when I'm at work. You ever hear yourself saying those kind of things? That's the things we manufacture within ourselves and try to make happen that we just can't do it. I will control my drinking from now on, or I'll control my gambling habit. I won't go out and spend my check from now on, and the first thing we do, we get paid, we're back out there. I have friends that I've known that have spent hundreds of dollars a night, some even thousands, when they've gotten paid or gotten money through illegal means to sustain a drug habit. It's amazing how deep you can get into a drug habit if you don't turn it around. I will stop taking extra prescription medication when my physical pain isn't so bad. These are just things that we say. I'm not manipulating my wife or my children. They just need my advice to make right decisions. You ever hear that kind of thinking inside yourself? I just need to lose another 20 pounds, and that's all. I'm not anorexic, so people just stay with this addictive, habit of binging and eating and picking it back up. What a sad way to have to live. Trying to find our value by how many pounds we have on our body or not. Throwing up after I eat isn't bad if I don't do it very often. As soon as I use the drugs or whatever it is, your cigarettes or food that I've paid for, I'll change my habits. You ever felt like you wanted to quit? You said, I just got a little bit left, so I'm just going to finish this. And then you find yourself right back on another run. And we never get out of what we hope to get out of. There's no such thing as an addiction to sex. I just enjoy pornography. If you're stuck in the area of pornography or porn, that is so highly addictive. That is something that's very controlling, and it will ruin future relationships if you don't get out of it. It's because those images, those things that you meditate on, things that you fantasize about, they'll get a hold of you so deeply, and you'll find yourself battling. You'll hate yourself. It'll ruin relationships, because what relationship can measure up to fantasy? What we create. So if you're struggling with that kind of an issue, it's a life-controlling issue, and we need to get free from it. If that's your issue, write it down. Even if it's drinking and pornography, or gambling and drugs, whatever it is, start identifying what it is, because once you admit it, you're halfway there, right? You don't understand. I have to lie about my husband's drinking or he'll lose his job. Our decisions, our habits can cause our loved ones to lie for us. And then they go into feeling the guilt and the shame, and they're enabling an addictive personality. And the last thing you need is someone enabling an addictive personality. Would you agree? We need people that will hold us accountable and ask, how are you doing today with that? If you really want out of those things, you're going to learn as we go through our steps that there's ways of using these tools in such a way that you're going to find yourself overcoming. And I'm here to support you all the way through. I'm going to help you through that. In order to give up control of your life to a compulsive negative behavior, you had to choose the path of least resistance, the easy way out. The decision that required the least effort or emotional discomfort on your part. It is time to acknowledge that inappropriate personal choices have stripped away your power to control compulsions such as alcoholism, drug addiction, eating disorders, smoking, gambling, sex addiction, a violent temper, codependency, or criminal behavior. The only way to regain appropriate control is to admit the problem. And that's what day one is about. Day one, step one is helping us to identify that we're going to admit there's a problem and determined to overcome it. Not tomorrow, not next week, but today. There has to be a starting point. So by the grace of God, may you begin your starting point today. You can do this. There's supports that are available for you to do it. And by doing this each day, can you see after a month, after 30 days of doing this, you're going to have some strength inside of you. You're going to have some resources that you haven't had. Temptation's going to come. You say, no, I had a problem with that, and now that's no more part of my life. I'm not going to give in to that because now I have resources. You have support. You're going to have friends that you can call that have been where you're at. It's going to be an exciting journey, and I'm glad to be here a part of it. So again, with your pen, today I admit that I am powerless over your life-controlling problem. What is it? Take a moment and just be honest. What is overpowering your life? And don't let any excuses come. Begin right now to remove the excuses. Don't let the excuses, say because of this, or because of the way my boyfriend or my husband treats me, or the way my wife treats me or doesn't treat me. Take responsibility for your life. And as you get yourself moving in a better direction, you're going to have some substance in you, and you're going to be able to bring help to others that you really love. You're going to feel the good feelings of being a help to others instead of being a destruction. So be honest there. I'm powerless over. Write it down. Mark it down. You need to do your homework. If you don't mark it down, it could go in one ear and out the other. Just get a pen. Even if this is uncomfortable, I'm challenging you. Get a pen and write it down. And come tomorrow with a pen and paper until you can get a book. I encourage you to get a book because it'll help. I'm having difficulty controlling the following areas of my life. So what areas are you having trouble with? Are you having trouble maintaining a job because of an addiction? Maybe you're up late at night and doing things you shouldn't be doing late at night, and you're tired during the day, and the alarm goes off, and you're back to sleep, and you've lost your job. And you really like the job that you had, and now you feel you've blown it. So I want to encourage you, let's move beyond that. You have difficulty controlling your drinking. Maybe you say, well, I'm just going to have a beer or two on the weekends. And if you've got an addictive personality, that beer or two doesn't stop at a beer or two, and you know that. It goes on into more beer or liquor or drugs, whatever it is. And so I want to encourage you, be honest. Don't leave room. I have difficulty controlling the following areas. Write it down. Whatever thoughts come to you, be honest. Be honest before God and be honest with yourself. Let's start there. Read the following verse very slowly and explain what it means to you. There is a way which seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death. This was written many years ago by a famous king in Israel. There is a way which seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death. And the other verse for the day is, before every man there lies a wide and pleasant road that seems right, but ends in death. Before every man there lies a wide and pleasant road. The way we're walking, many are on it. And it seems right, but its way ends in death. How many people do you know today that have died because of overdose, suicide, an accident, drinking? A lot of things have taken out a lot of people, but you're still here. And so there's still hope for you. And the best gift you can give to those that have you lost is to become the best you that you can be. Everybody's rooting for you. List 3 or more things you have done thinking they were okay. As you continued to do them, you discovered they were not in your best interest and were possibly destructive. What 3 things or more things that you have done thinking they were okay? What have you been involved in? You thought this path was okay. You said, whoa, looking back, that was a bad choice. Learn. We're not here to condemn. We're here to learn from our bad choices so we can make better choices. Sometimes the best way to learn is the hard way. You put your finger on a hot stove, you're not going to want to do it again. So don't condemn yourself for your past failures. Let's just overcome. So take a moment to write down whatever it is and to identify it. For those of you that have a book, mark it in your book. Those of you that have a pen and paper, mark it in your pen and paper. And I am going to find a way the next few days. I have another young man working with me to put some of these online so you can see them right there. And maybe we'll have them posted afterwards so you can work through the homework part of it. Meditation. Every day there's going to be a meditation. Write this verse on a small card. This is what I'm challenging you to do. Even if it's new for you, just try it. Write this verse on a small card and keep it with you throughout the day. Read it often. Think about what it says and challenge yourself to memorize it. Let your mind begin to be strengthened by memorizing a verse per day. And we come back to that verse. Here's the verse for the day. Ready? Before every man or woman, there lies a wide and pleasant road that seems right, but ends in death. And you just think if you keep on smoking, you're going to, chances of getting cancer and dying early is very, very high. You keep on doing drugs, chances of becoming a serious addict. If you're doing drugs today and you're finding yourself struggling with controlling it, how's it going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now? You could be dead. You know, drinking, you know, same thing. Drinking makes us so inebriated that we'll go out and get in a car and can take someone's life. We can live with the guilt of that, you know, or you get hurt or your children. And especially those who are watching you, learning to do the same things. You may never see it, but they do what they saw you do, and your kids go out and one of them hurts himself really bad. The consequences are terrible. So recognize that. And so here's what we sign off on every day. The last line on this is today, just for today. Today, I will make right choices and regain control of my life. And I want you to sign your name. If you can say yes for today, I'm going to make right choices for the rest of this day or later in the day. And I'm going to regain control of my life today for one day. And then sign it and date it, you know, and just say, you see what happens over a period, next little while in your life. And each day they're going to ask you to make a commitment for that one day. And that's why we call this a daily choice. So I hope you stick with me through this. Today is day 1. And I just want to encourage you, come tomorrow. It's going to be posted so you can catch it any time of the day. You know, if you're working late or you have an appointment with somebody, you don't have to get hung up and say, oh, I got to be there at 6 o'clock. No, you don't have to be there at 6. I'm going to post it probably around 6 every day because I want it to be available for you in the evening. And so you can go in any time of the evening. You can invite someone to sit in with you and do it together. That'd be really exciting, really powerful to have someone to work this through with you. If somebody's been praying for you or encouraging you, say, hey, you know what? Would you sit down with me while I go through this? I'm sure there's some people who would love to do that. If you're local here in Moncton, please inbox me at any time. And if you'd like to hook up with the local group, I'll do my best to make that happen. Okay, so God bless you. Hope to see you again tomorrow. Blessings upon you.